Hello everyone. Today we'll be looking into the lives of a few of the most unique, bizarre, and influential composers in history. As you may know, I'm new to YouTube and making videos is still something I kinda gotta get used to. If you're a history lover like me, you may find this channel interesting, and if you do, click the like button down below. This will show me that I'm doing something right, and maybe subscribe if you look forward to future content. Without further ado, let's get started. A musical master. One of the most widely recognized and admired composers to this day, Ludwig van Beethoven. Born in December of 1770, would later go down in history as one of the most significant musical figures in the world. As a child, Beethoven's father, who was a music teacher, had planned to make his beloved son a child prodigy. At the age of 7, Beethoven made his very first public debut. But with all of this encouragement from his father, Beethoven was also subject to abuse and was forced to practice for hours on end. Being a child, he was forced to stand on a chair to reach the keys of the piano, and if he made one little mistake, he was whipped. As a young man, Beethoven went on as a beloved composer and musician, and his audiences very much enjoyed his performances, but into his late 20s, he started to lose his hearing, and as many know today, Beethoven would later go on to completely lose his ability to hear. Unable to hear voices, and would often have to write down notes to communicate with friends or colleagues. We are still unsure to this day as to why he lost his ability to hear. And before composing, Beethoven would often plunge his head into ice-cold water in order to keep himself awake, and would often break out into bursts of rage at work and on stage, devastated by his misfortune. But aside from these major setbacks throughout Beethoven's life, he would go on to compose over 700 memorable works, written over the span of 45 years. He later died during a thunderstorm in Vienna, Austria, in the year 1827, at the age of 56. His cause of death was determined to be a combination of diabetes and cirrhosis of the liver, caused by excessive drinking. Known for his unusual and eccentric behavior, French composer Erik Alfred Leslie Satie, who later signed his name Erik Satie, was born on May 17, 1866 in Honfleur, France. As a child, he was forced to move to his paternal grandparents' house upon the death of his mother. It was there that his grandparents pushed him into becoming a musician. As a grown boy, he started music lessons and continued until age 12. Afterwards, Satie reunited with his father, who then married a piano teacher. He continued his musical education with his stepmother, and at age 13, joined the Paris Conservatoire. His time at the Conservatoire was very challenging, and many teachers absolutely despised his playing style. He was the laziest student, they said. You will never become a well-known musician, they said. Well, young Satie, fed up with hearing this, left the Conservatoire and joined the French military for a year. He would later come back, and at that time he really knew he wanted to pursue music. And later down the road, he would end up meeting famous influential composers and impressionists such as Maurice Ravel and Claude Debussy. From 1891 to 1892, Satie was a member of the mystical Order of Rosicrucian. This was a cult founded by novelist Joseph Paladin, and was influential for Satie. It introduced his musical styles to other musicians and artists who were members. A year later, he left the cult group and wanted to create his own musical religion. It was called the Metropolitan Church of Jesus the Conductor, but unfortunately it gained no members. Now, at the beginning of this, I told you guys that this dude was pretty weird. He accentuated some pretty unusual and eccentric behavior. Now, let's just get into that. In 1913, he wrote a detailed diary-like essay where he depicted his strikingly peculiar eating habits. My only nourishment, quote, consists of food that is white. Eggs, sugar, grated bones, the fat of dead animals, veal, salt, coconuts, chicken cooked in white water, fruit mold, turnips, camphorated sausages, pastry, cheese, white varieties, cotton salad, and certain kind of fish without their skin. I boil my wine and drink it cold, mixed with the juice of fuchsia. I'm a hearty eater, but never speak while eating, for fear of strangling. In his memoir he writes, I sleep with only one eye closed, very profoundly. My bed is round, with a hole to put my head through. Once every hour, a servant takes my temperature and gives me another. I breathe with care, a little at a time. I rarely dance. When walking, I clasp my sides and look steadily behind me. Even when walking down the streets of Paris, he carried a small hammer with him, which was thought to protect him from a mugger or an attacker. But with all of this aside, when it came to his music, he's most famous for his musique d'ameublement, or furnishing music. He composed certain furnishing music for certain events, and it was created for the sole purpose to be heard and not listened to. Today this type of music would be called ambient music or background music, but it seems Satie was ahead of his time. No one wanted to have this type of music in the early 1900s. He even created a piece called Vexations, and it was to be replayed by the pianist 840 times. My God, Satie. While his more popular music were his gymnopédies and nocturnes, which you might have heard before. Some of his music is even implemented in movies today. While in his late 30s, Satie moved from Montmartre to a tiny, cramped living space in the south of Paris. It was here where he lived for the next 27 years until his death on July 1st, 1925, where he died from liver cirrhosis due to excessive alcohol abuse. Just like Beethoven. Why are all these guys drunks? What the hell? Now, in his very apartment where he died, Satie lived like an absolute hobo. Books, boxes, objects everywhere. Over 100 umbrellas, hundreds of newspapers thrown all over the place. And better yet, 2 grand pianos stacked upon each other. One was used for storing things, and one was used for composing music. Will we ever come to understand what exactly was going through the mind of Mr. Erik Satie? I don't know, maybe you know, so comment down below on your thoughts. Last but not least, Franz Schubert, aka the Little Mushroom, was born on January 31st, 1797 in Vienna, Austria. As a young child, his father Franz Theodor Schubert and brother Ignaz played a major role in his musical beginning. Growing up in a musical household, he was inspired and pushed to grasp his soon-to-become talent. And as a young man, Schubert acquired the name Little Mushroom because he only stood at about 5 feet 1 inch and was kind of chubby. He continued to take music lessons, and even though he started composing very popular music of his own, he was seen as a humble and modest genius. At the time, Schubert's songs brought down the house, and the wealthy would invite him in to play at their parties. Like many other successful composers, Schubert spent his evenings enjoying songs, poetry, and the occasional wine-spiked punch. Yeah, Schubert was a party man, and was an argumentative drunk. And for most of his adult life, he suffered from cyclothymia, which was a mental illness that resulted in severe mood swings, which fluctuated from hypomanic and depressive episodes. The condition became even more extreme during his mid-20s, when his friends reported periods of dark despair and violent anger. In March of 1827, Franz Schubert actually attended Beethoven's funeral as a torchbearer. He was a great admirer of Beethoven's, and he requested to be buried next to him when he died. That following year, on November 19th, 1828, Franz Schubert passed away at the very young age of 31. It is said that he died from typhoid fever as a result from drinking tainted water, but others say it might have been complications from syphilis. His actual cause of death is still not confirmed to this day, but during those 31 years of his life, he would compose over 1,500 different works. which is astounding for a man who lived out such a short career. Alright guys, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you truly enjoyed it, why not tap the like button, subscribe for future content, and I look forward to making more and more videos in the future. Thank you all for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.